The theme of this session is maximize the latest digital, social, and automation technologies for ultimate employee engagement without losing the human touch. The session would be moderated by Ms. Nivedita Nanda, CHRO Kaya. Nivedita has started her career as pilot officer with Indian Air Force and is now a passionate HR leader with versatile experience in establishing new greenfield ventures, significant mergers and acquisitions, and amalgamation of public and private enterprises. Joining her are our esteemed panelists, Mr. Anil Gaur, Group Chief People Officer, Uniparts Group. Anil has strong capability on cascading culture and execution of core HR processes with an expertise of more than 30 years in the industry. He has worked in highly business-driven, fast-paced and progressive organizations aiming at profitability through sustainable growth. Our next panelist is Mr. Pradeep Chavda, Human Resources Director, Sodexo, India. Pradeep has a demonstrated history of 22 years of experience, including managing large workforce of employees in a national, international locations. His strong commitment to diversity and inclusion has driven significant changes within his current organization.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Ms. Richa Pathak Dogra, Director, People Technology, Fortune 500. Richa, with more than 18 years of experience, has a vivid exposure to building processes and driving strategic change initiatives from scratch to successful implementations. As an effective leader, she has been instrumental in building and driving high-performing teams. Our next panelist is Mr. Samir Kokade, President, Human Capital, Praj Industries. Samir is a transformational leader with an experience of more than 30 years in leading human resources, leadership systems, admin, CSR, and sustainability for the companies he has been with. Our next panelist is Mr. Ajay Jhalani, Managing Director of Winner Technoplast. Ajay is a business leader with 27 years experience developing marketing and sales capability within and across business units, while meeting and exceeding business goals. Mr. Kawalpreet Singh, Director, Marketing, JLL India. Kawalpreet is a data-driven marketing leader with cross-functional experience in marketing strategy, consulting, and sales with an expertise of over 20 years in the industry. Over to you, Nivedita. I request you to unmute.
Thank you so much. I think wonderful introduction. You can see the panel. We have got veterans with us and the topic is quite interesting. I'm sure the audience is going to really be benefited the expertise or the views the panel is going to come out with. So the topic today is actually interesting because all of us are going through this change, if you ask me today. In fact, the last decade, the conversations around the HR technology was actually focused on the digitizing HR, which referred to moving from paper to, the paper-based processes to get into a digital tools, basically. And most of the organization, if you look at it, if the panel will agree with me that, already digitize their processes. Actually, they're moving towards a very advanced technology. They're focusing on social media, mobile, analytics, AI, which we're going to talk about it today. I'm sure the panelists are going to talk how they are using this, leveraging this technology. When we're talking about big data, we're talking about advanced analytics. I think this has been really useful for any HR leader here. The kind of people, we manage, across the country or beyond the country, which I do, it's very difficult for me to really have it because we're an Indian company which has got footers in beyond India, Singapore and Middle East. So just imagine how I want to get them together, having the same culture, same values. I think technology has really helped me, at least as a person. So we want to really talk because we have Kawal from a marketing side. We have Ajay from a MSME. I think, I'm sure, and of course, Richa dealing with technology. So I think we are going to get some very good views and insights to this forum with this expertise having around. And the best part is we're talking about human touch, you know. So can we leverage technology and get that ultimate employee engagement, motivated workforce without losing a human touch? Actually, this is a very, 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 crucial period we are going through. As I told you, that we are just, some of us are just transitioning. Some of we have already evolved, right? So we all know, social media is playing a very important role in each one of us in life, basically. So I was just going through, before coming for this session, some data. In 2019, they did, Deloitte has said that almost 2.95 billion active social media users are there in the world. And they're expecting 2023, it's going to be 4.43 billion people. Basically, they're going to be the advanced, they're using social media, very active people. If you ask me, everyone you go to a corner shop, the person is using a mobile today, right? So that's the kind of, the transition we are going through. So I'm going to Pradeep quickly. Pradeep, you come from a service industry, right? Your business is about people, and your business, actually your customers are depending on you for each and every activity. And I'm sure your NPS score, I don't know where are you, but I'm sure depending on the kind of workforce you're managing, leveraging technology must be the first thing in coming to your mind. I would like to hear from you two things, are you successful? Okay. And there are many, which of the areas you're using the technology, and which of the area actually you have been successful? It will help us to take the other panelists to different questions. I want to first hear where all you're using. Yeah, Pradeep, over to
Certainly.
you.
Certainly. Thank you, Nivedita. And sorry, I'm hearing my own echo. Okay. So yeah, I truly agree. And I think what I would say that technology and HR, or even the human touch, both needs to coexist actually. And in this role of HR or other functional heads is to evolve along with the digital technology, the way they are evolving. And how do we really ensure that the human touch is not missed? And when we're talking about technology, then we need to integrate our strategy, customer-centric experience, data-led decision making, or future focused are some of the areas which probably I would venture upon. And sometimes the question comes in our mind that what do we really automate and what should we not automate? So I would say transactions, prediction, iterations, and how do we really evolve our existing processes can be kind of automated. But some of the areas like human touch, creation of something, or leading something, or judging something, or improvising something can be really can be kept in our hand, and we can do a little more and progressive work as managers. And I'll give you some of the examples which we are using technology and it has really helped, and we are using it with human touch because globally we are 500,000 plus employees. In India we are 50,000 plus employees. So the technology is required. However, we cannot lose the touch of the human touch as well. So I'll give you one example of career portal. So in career portal, most of the companies have a challenge that employees don't go to the internal job posting or such kind of portals. However, we have created a different. We've actually introduced two different things into it. One is that people can interact with the bot and they can actually get some kind of recommendations from there. Or people can actually set alerts, like you set a Google alerts in your Google, and then you get an alert where the appropriate job comes. Similarly, in Sodexo IGP portal, you can set some alerts, and then whenever the right jobs are coming, then system will remind you, oh, you posted something, and you can set alert for your friends, family, yourself also, and then that way you can move on a career, and we also get advantage. Some of the other examples like kudos is something which is appreciation is something in digital era is so difficult to really give that human touch. So, we do have this kudos platform, which is fully automated. And during the office timing, if you're clicking a kudos, then suddenly a balloon will come on your desk and it will remain entire day. So people will ask about it. So, that kind of giving some human touch to technology. Then I'll give you one more example in Sodexo. If you want to reach out to HR, you just give a missed call. And then, within 8 minutes time, HR calls you back. So even if we overcomplicate the system, system, then also it is a problem. And we have a candidates and channel partners, they have access to our systems, and that way we are kind of reducing the workload of HR team members in terms of doing their jobs. There are some career games which you can introduce at the time of induction, so that the career management process are actually understood by employees well. E-learning everyone is doing, but I'll talk about two very important things which you really got benefited as HR. One is alumni portal. So we have 40,000 alumni who are connected with us on a regular basis, and they still take advantage of understanding what Sodexo doing and learning some of the new things. I know some of the online courses are free for them. They can apply for jobs, they can get help on various other things. So what has happened because of this, almost 60% of our employees, blue collar employees, they join us back within 8 to 9 months time, which is a big business imperative for us because we are getting a huge advantage. Similarly, people are working on kind of engagement on the go. So we have stopped doing the annual engagement, but we have on the go engagement. So before starting a meeting itself, I can generate that engagement thing, and then I can do it. And similarly on mental health and well-being, we have automated that so that people can feel the confidentiality element there, and they can, and then again touch with vendors, stakeholders, connected with our HR system, business system. And I'll give you one very important element, like we stopped retirement in our company because we realized that the data doesn't show that people who are at a 59 or 60 years of age, they are not productive or they are underperformer. And we actually stopped retirement process in our company unless and until somebody is underperformer or something, or has a health issue, then the person gets retired. So some of these archaic ways of working which we had earlier, I think the technology will help us in terms of doing that better.
Okay, I think Pradeep has really taken us through that it can be used in every area of HR, but definitely they have been successful on few things, which I will, Pradeep, I'll have one more question for you. Let me just ask very quickly, I'll go to Anil. Anil, this work from home, we just were discussing before we came to the panel, we are quite comfortable now doing this digital panels, right? So work from home has become a way of life. But, sometimes I feel reaching out to people, okay, quickly it has become a challenge for many HR and CEOs, basically. In your organization, how communication you have managed through, technology, if you can take me through on that. Yeah, have you done something? How have you done it? Yeah.
Thanks, Nivedita. I think there is a saying that necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes.
And this has never been true in the last 1 year of the COVID. While there is no minimizing the devastating human and economic impact of the COVID crisis, I'm a firm believer that with every downside, there is an upside. The crisis has undoubtedly accelerated digital transformation across the globe, and it has also opened our eyes to the possibilities offered by technologies or technological solutions to enhance and support our lives and sustain and grow our businesses. Here I remember one quote from Dalai Lama, and he said once that love and compassion are necessities and not luxuries, and without them, humanity cannot survive. So when we look at the communication, I think it's a matter of touching the heart of the people, which Pradeep has also talked about, certainly creating some touch points. I think it is relevant for all of us to understand how to prepare ourselves for future and how we can bring perspective of touching the heart of the people. And what I generally talk in all the forums, wherever I get an opportunity. And 10, 15 years back when I was working for Maruti, we tried to look at this perspective. So what I say is that probably it's a time to redefine the definition of HRD to HHRD. And that means the heart-to-heart relationship development. So that we can rebuild the organization. So after this COVID, when we were struggling like any other person of business, communication, and communication, these were the three strategies we looked at. That how we can stay connected with the people. We had no solution initial first quarter. There was no solution coming to mind of any one of us. So we thought that, okay, what are the challenges? Now, today, when I look at and try to correlate the strategy which we adopted in Uniparts Group, I think other than the other challenges with the businesses they face and they realize, what comes to my mind, especially from the technological point of view, the HR and businesses, they got occupied in different priorities, firefighting and struggling with that situation of COVID and the business impact on it. Then there was a budgetary constraint. Now the expertise and of the people leading to the digital transformation was another challenge being faced. I'm typically talking about from the manufacturing point of view, because we have a different size and scale of the manufacturing business in India. And then there was a lack of very clear strategy or goal. So we looked at all the answers to all these things, and while communicating, so very first thing was very important in a setup. See, in India, laptop, look at from the manufacturing perspective. Having a laptop, there was a time when it was a luxury in the offices. Generally, when the computerization started, gradually people, companies and people, they started graduating. But a large population in manufacturing today, still they use desktop and they can't carry a desktop back home. So in the month of March 2020, when this discussion started that probably we may land up in a situation of work from home, the first decision without losing any time was transition from all those think line and laptop desktops to the laptop and data cards, so that we give resources and tools for our majority of people, so that they can adapt to it and they can stay connected while they're working at home. So that was the first thing. Second thing was teaching and training the people what is the meaning of the work from home, because initially no one was aware. Work from home was a practice only being adopted in IT, ITS businesses and maybe some of the service industry. But for manufacturing, no one, we never realized that probably one day we will be working from home and still running the business successfully, right? So that training was very necessary, because people were not aware. That means, many of the people, they were under impression probably this is a vacation and in between they have some calls and some meetings here and there. So we educated them, trained them. Third perspective was communication. So very clear and communication, that communication has to be very, very fast, very clear. So we also adopted to initially WhatsApp group, then we migrated that our HRA system. We have a mobile application. So we created a chat box so that the people can talk. They are free to talk not only the business related issues, but their personal ailments or some difficulty, some challenge they are facing. Managers, and more important here was the managers at the ground were empowered, so that they do not waste their time in only getting some kind of approvals from the corporate office or some senior higher ups. So empowerment was another focus, that while they are communicating, they should have a conviction, they should believe whatever is good for the business organization and the people, they're free to take decision. Third important element, while we looked at the communication strategy, we also adopted to tolerance for mistake, and we taught it. I have been teaching about it from last 2-3 years to all the managers. But they should also realize that, people in this crisis situation, when they are taking a decision, and there could be a barrier, communication could be a barrier in some situation, they should be empowered. And in the process, people may take certain decision and they may also commit mistakes. So we must tolerate those mistakes. And one important aspect which came in is celebrating mistakes. Somebody has taken a conscious decision in some factory, and the decision turned into the wrong decision, or maybe not the bad decision. So we educated that what is the right, wrong, and bad decision. So we must avoid and prevent the bad decision, but wrong decision, okay, because somewhere we have a possibility, we have a capability in house available to may turn the wrong decision into a right outcome subsequently. Then stakeholder management. While we looked at communication as a strategy, we did not limit ourselves to the people. So for us, people means not only the employees but their family members. So some forum were created. We use the Yammer, we use the Microsoft Team, we use the chat box, and we also created a concept of each one connect one. Okay. So every employee has to stay in touch and stay connected with a fellow colleague. and the family members.
Wonderful.
Similarly, the stakeholders, our suppliers, our customers, employees, neighboring industry.
Yeah.
All the neighboring industry, there was a group and club we have created, so WhatsApp group with the neighboring industry, so that, when I'm looking at the safety and security of my premises in one of the factory during the lockdown situation, I was also consciously and sensitively involved in the safety of my next door neighbor, so that anything goes wrong with them, so we can also create a sensitization to that. So industry pulse, industry market intelligence, all these things, the channel were created.
Okay.
The good stuff was even the contractor, they were in touch with the contract labor, so that we were aware of the movement of everyone. And
very serious question actually that Anil has, just said. With the employees, that is the internal customer, he also has looked after, communicated and kept in touch with I think that's a very vast subject, how we, many organizations have done that. I'll come to Samir. Samir, seeing the background you come from, it's like keeping a motivated employees with the proper communication was more important than just a communication. We kept in touch, fine. Whether did you do any kind of use any technology to see whether these guys are motivated, or the very targeted communication? For example, one sector needs certain kind of communication, maybe another, the managers needs different. Did you do something like that, Samir, if I come to you?
Yes. Hi everybody, and yes, I will definitely give the answer of this, but I would like to see the more comprehensive situation, how we handle and how this particular COVID lockdown has helped is an intervention, because this is the kind of a first in time after the Second World War that we have faced a major disruption, and that disruption has given us a lot of learnings. How many of those learnings and practices what we have followed in last 1 year will sustain will depend on what kind of a approach and situation we emerge with. But then that has given a lot of what I can say learning nuggets, and those I will definitely going to talk about, and how we brought people on the one platform. See, when I see, I would like to give the answer into 2 or 3 different parts, like technology usage and support system. That is something which is very important, because when we moved from working in office to work from home, that has been a big change, and that was something which Anil also was talking about. Secondly is a mindset change, because as a HR we need to see that how that mindset change happens, and disruption in the crisis. I think behavioral changes are happening more faster than regular environment, and that we have experienced a lot. Thirdly, actually, the collective leadership. We have seen very closely the collective leadership coming, or servant leadership we call. So all these things are very closely seen in this period. And the last thing, what you're talking about, the engagement and communication. See, our companies who are manufacturing, engineering, or conventional industry is not that organized in making the systems more digitized or digitalized, both. Okay, it's based on, as Anil very rightly said, that goes with need to have, nice to have. And many things which are required for manufacturing, or producing the goods and services what we provide, that is need to have. And anything internal is nice to have. I think this particular situation has really made the situation that we need to move on, and we need to say this is also need to have and not to have, nice to have. So we moved people home, as Anil said, that we shifted the laptops wherever it was possible. We shifted few desktops as well. But then the most important thing was how we communicate people. And the first tool we used, that from the day one, every week, we used to have an employee webinar.
Oh, okay.
And that we continued now here on ours for once in a month. We are not stopped that once a month. employee webinar, because that we found that is extremely two-way good communication, because usually we used to have a town hall meetings, but we used to do it in various locations in piecemeal, and it was not having a rhythm. Employee webinar, including our sites, because of mine is also a project management company. So so we can reach out to the last person who is on the site.
Perfect.
So that was very good initiative. Secondly, we had engagement programs online.
Okay.
And we gave a lot of publicity through Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
People got a visibility on that front. Third, usage of the systems like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, then the various different modes where we can, like Kahoot, we used lot many times to connect with the people on various questions. Then last is surveys we conducted, and we created the common understanding. So all these things help, but then more than that, on the stakeholders, on a customer, we so far never we had any commissioning of our plant other than in person. For the first time in this period, we implemented a new model, online commissioning of the plant or project, and that wonderfully worked. And that is the new way of doing the things, is a new normal for our commissioning team. And understanding, and that was having a kind of a language issues and other things. So we did a lot of training around this. E-learning got a first seat rather than back seat. So all these things, we created a very seamless platform.
Absolutely wonderful work. I think wonderful work. Our technology can help reach out people, but once we reach out, I understand. We connected with people. But I was just again going through some papers. It's a 43% of your manpower. Actually, they say the biggest, unhappiness for them is they don't get recognized. In a normal time, 43% of people, maybe the so-called the hypos also feel they are not recognized. I think during pandemic, my organization at least, we just used a technology how to appreciate more, and it was required. If you look at it, it was required. So I quickly go to Richa. Richa, have you used any technology in terms of recognition or recognizing their work or motivating people through that? Have you done that?
So thank you so much for that question, and I think it's a very, very important topic, and it's a very sensitive topic at that, I would say. And particularly, I'll look at this population that you mentioned, the 43%, that you're referring to here, just as an example. I think what we need to see is how much of it actually comprises of your top performers, how much of this 43% comprises of your average performers, and how much of it comprises of your bottom performers. Because it's not just about recognizing and rewarding people. It's about rewarding and recognizing the right people at the right time. And the thing about recognition is that, sometimes leaders tend to do it very retrospectively. But the main impact of recognition, I would say, is if it is real time and if it is done publicly. Of course, in my current organization, we definitely use tools, and we've been using that tool for a very long time. All rewards and recognitions are done through that platform, be it monetary rewards or be it just appreciation or just sending a thank you note. So everything has been digitized into this big platform that we have, and that's the only platform that we use. We don't go outside of that platform. If I talk about rewards particularly, especially from the context of colleagues who perform, especially top performers who performed for a period of time, and they're expecting those monetary rewards or something additional at the end of the year. I would say that sometimes we mistake the understanding that monetary rewards are the only rewards that people look for, right? For some, it may be monetary, but for others, it could be, public recognition. It could be media projects. It could be an international assignment. It could be a promotion and so on. So there's no cookie cutter formula, I would say, that we can use to deploy when it comes to recognition and rewarding people. And I've heard people in my own team sometimes say that, it's not about the monetary reward that we get. It's about the recognition that we get. It's about the rating that we get at the end of the year, or the appreciation that we get, in a big forum that matters to them. And this brings me to this important point around, total rewards, I think, that we were discussing earlier. And especially at the end of the year, when people are expecting increments and stuff like that. I would just say that, a person who's done consistently well through the year does not get the expected rewards at the end of the year, right? Now, what happens here is, because most leaders what they tend to do is they review the performance in silo, not holistically, and then they make trade-offs. So since I've given person A a good rating, let me give a good increment to person B, or let me give A a good bonus and B a good increment. So these are the trade-offs they make sometimes, and these give very mixed signals to your top performing talent, and it's bound to make them rather unhappy, right? So even if you recognize them through the year, you've appreciated them, you've sent them thank you notes, you've applauded them, but at the end of the year, if your message does not match, what you've said to them during the year, it's bound to make them unhappy. And one of the ways to solve for this is to maybe bring in tools even to help managers and the organization manage their total reward system. Tools that are automated enough to ensure that your top performers are getting rewarded differentially than the others, right? Yeah. So, for example, all leaders have to do, in some of the tools that are available in the market, is enter the ratings and the rewards populate to a large extent on their own. The tool sees an employee is amongst the top performers. It automatically suggests what are the right increments or bonus or stock options, etc., that a person should get. And it also leaves some flexibility to the leaders to reward the remaining population. So differentiated rewards for differentiated performance has to be there in order to retain your top talent and to keep them happy. Yeah. It's easy, maybe not. It never is, but I think it is the right thing to do. And I think that's what we as HR must strive to do.
Yeah, I'm sure, Richa, I think automating the entire total reward is one of the dream I think any HR leader can have, because that's where we struggle. If you look at it, all of us work in, you have an engagement team, you have a compensation team, you have a reward team, everybody coming together and understanding the profile and rewarding properly. That's the challenge today. And I'm sure with technology, we'll be able to achieve that. So, that comes to me the very good question for Kawal. He comes from marketing, with this big data automation, we're talking about speed, we're talking about, reaching out people. Do you really miss HR? Do you really miss HR? Or you feel that, the whole thing is not personalized for me? It's, technology has come in and AI comes in, they do the analytics. So I miss that smart looking HR who really calls me up and said that, hey, how is the mood? Hey, is Kawal, I think this question, because you come from a marketing side. Tell me how do you feel?
So thank you first of all, Nivedita, great question. Let me share my experience first as an employee and then as a marketer.
I expect that, yes.
I have worked in large technology organizations like IBM, Infosys, HP in my previous experience. And now I'm working with JLL, which is a mid-sized organization. One thing that I love in my current role is how personal HR is. They celebrate your achievements, they celebrate your, birthdays, anniversaries, and so on and so forth. Whereas some of the large organizations, the HR is impersonal in a way, because we know they're sitting in some remote building where you can reach out to them on phone, but they're never around. So HR is the center point of all, workforce is what I personally believe in. And again, from a technology perspective, coming back to the question, big fan of technology, AI, machine learning, big data, all that we call deep tech has the potential to deliver delightful experiences in my view, and especially through personalization. And let me illustrate that with a few examples. One from an employee's perspective and then from a client perspective. So in my past role, I was working with IBM and they have this whole cognitive AI platform called Watson, immensely capable platform and several use cases. We used to have Watson in our mailboxes, which used to kind of tell us the mail that you're writing or the mail that you've got, what is the sentiment of that mail. So it used to do a sentiment analysis. When we used to, kind of go through our calendars, if you give access to Watson, of course, it can analyze your travel schedule to book your favorite seat in your favorite airline at the time you always go for. And then also, give predictions for, it senses where you're going, and it can tell you how's the weather in that city, so you pack accordingly. So I mean, beautiful use case. An extension of that is something that we have in JLL today, something that we've developed an artificial intelligence-based virtual assistant called Jet, which actually aims to serve delightful experiences to employees. For example, today we are all sitting in a distributed virtual platform, but tomorrow if I want to go to the office for a couple of hours, what it does is it senses who I'm going to meet, when am I going to meet, and in a large multi-building STPI or SEZ, for example, it gives me a seat close to the people that I'm supposed to meet in a meeting room where the meeting is supposed to be, and it's all closed. You don't have to spend time commuting within the campuses and so on and so forth. It also kind of tells me that what is my user preference, for example, what time will I want to have lunch, how do I like the temperature near the place where I'm sitting, who do I interact with, what do I do in office, where do I spend most of my time, in which area, and so on and so forth. So all this for developing personalized solutions. Very interesting. We did a pilot once in our Singapore office, I think last year, where a select group of people were wearing an IoT sensor-based chip on their iCards, which constantly kept tracking their behavior. For example, which part of the office am I spending most of the time in? What am I doing? Which meeting room am I occupying more? It even sensed my heart rate.
Wow.
Give me an insight of the person who I interacted with, for example. How was that interaction? So if, for example, it kind of jumps, it will tell me, slow down. Is it a, frictional experience that you're having, interaction that you're having, or is it something else, and so on and so forth. So that is the level of personalization that and insight that deep tech can kind of bring in. And there's so many more. I mean, I'll be preaching to the choir. You all are HR leaders. You know how AI and digitization has also kind of transformed the entire employee journey, right from the time of recruitment, finding out their user preferences, and then making their learning, developments, goals, and so on and so forth. So that is something that is phenomenal in terms of personalization. Now, just one more aspect of using this deep tech for clients as well. There are several use cases of technology in retail and e-commerce. Everybody is talking about how our data is being used by social media to show personalized ads for profit. But there's a good side to it as well. In IBM, for example, IBM has capabilities basis the weather data to analyze weather conditions, which will help retailers stock up on inventory before extreme weather conditions. For example, if it's going to snowfall or a cyclone, it'll advise a retail store and me as a user to stock up on some important staples rather than going for good to have things, for example. There's a scenario in banking as well. IBM did some work with a large global bank where we all struggle with IVR, for example, right? It takes minutes sometimes to get to the right people, but using AI, deep tech, it could sense what I want and the kind of interaction, the product and stuff, and it on an average it cuts down an interaction time of 10 minutes to a few seconds. You can reach the right solution for seconds.
Wonderful uses of technology. One feels good. Oh, I can know the moodometer. My client, what mood he is into with this kind of technology. Wonderful. I think it's one will love to have those technology, but the fact remains very different in the country like where we live. We are not Singapore, we are not Japan. We live in India, wherein 40% of the country's workforce actually are working with MSME. Right. Wherein we heard Samir speaking, right? The manufacturing industry, they're struggling from a tabletop to a laptop. That's the reality if you look at it. And number of companies, basically in Indian context, continue to get the shift to digital, particularly, Indian-based organization, manufacture, family-based, family-run business. So I would like to hear from Ajay. He comes from MSME. How technology has helped you in terms of, like, when Anil was speaking, I said, yeah, it's a bigger topic, how he's been handling the vendors or the customers, also the internal customer. Ajay, I'm sure this is going to help the audience. Okay, one would like to be part of an organization where we are using a chip, but the fact remains, India, we have the MSME sector. So can you just tell us how you have been using tech? What are the problems? How did you come out of it? Yeah, over to Ajay.
So good afternoon, all. So as you rightly, Nivedita said, about India, 6 crore entrepreneurs are there, which are micro, small, medium size. And the great part is the 40% of India export happens through MSME. 30% of Indian GDP, say about $1 trillion, MSME, give a contribution to it. But the sad part is that MSME, the technology adoption is at a very nascent stage. The reasons you know very well, but when I talk to them, there's a lack of support in terms of unfamiliarity about the technology, then lack of capital, lack of maybe expertise, and the rapid changes in technology, which always, for the MSME. But I think this, what has really happened in this COVID world, the changes has really taken place. And, in terms of the greater connectivity, the digital advertising, the payment methods, the inventory management. So I think that transformation has really kicked off very well in MSME. And I think what I've seen within the MSME, like small companies, talking about the big size ticket, the CRM technology, the SAP, the ERP, even, they started, implementing it. So I personally feel in India, we have a two ecosystem. One is ecosystem of a very established companies where, established, the companies are there. And then there is a set of ecosystem where we have a small MSME and, this potential, the startup companies. So that those are really nurturing and their collaboration is really helping, to drive the technology and adaptation. So I think there will be a significant, potential and opportunity for MSMEs and this new startup. They will do interconnect and they will take the adaptations of technology in a next phase. So I think personally, my concluding remarks for in terms of MSME segment, the technology adaptation in terms of, will be a 3x as compared to the all well-established companies. So that's what I personally feel. There's huge opportunity, and here onwards.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, Ajay, it is a tough time, but at the same time, let me tell you, the bigger organization, when they're investing on a technology, I don't think any CEO goes out of it that I want to see the ROI. If I've invested, has my productivity increased? Okay. My employee SAT score has increased. So they use a lot of technology, but ROI is also equally important to the whole thing. I think, Pradeep, I'll just ask you, do you all check ROI? Do you all check whether the investment has given you any returns? Or do you do that?
Yeah, we do actually, because, we are very cost conscious organization, and probably, and I'll give you some of the examples which will give little more insight on this. Example, we are most of us are working now, work from home, and we need to really work on workplace reduction of workplace cost.
Correct.
So, we do have technology and sensors where, we can actually, the employee can book the workplace from at home only. They can book exactly which seat they want to sit, and probably, if they use that seat, then they move out from there immediately. The seat can be sanitized, and all those things. There is a technology available, and we do use in our case also. And some of the other areas, probably I can tell you, like example, performance management, which Richa spoke about in terms of how do we really have, through the year we actually see and measure the performance. So in my company, we have every day performance scorecard for some of the key role holder, and especially in HR, you get every day a particular score. And at the end of the day, those scores, you get a weighted average. So it's not, some of the pocket that somebody has done it, and then at the end of the year, you get a performance rating or something. So it is actually measured to the entire year. And, some of the technology which we are using, example, recognition index. So it gives a kind of a that moodometer which you talked about, is that the index gives the management an insight that which are the months which are really people are not recognizing, or they're not appreciating, they're not using, and all those things. I'll give you a few more examples. We have some outreach, like how we've used technology and reduced the cost of hiring. So we have some outreach partner, and we hire people like electricians and those kind of skilled laborers, and because 90% of our employees are from skilled categories. So we have suppose we have kirana shops in some deep rural, and an ITI person walks into that kirana shop, and then the person is actually scanning the QR code, and then the video interview is taken in the local language, and it goes back to the recruiter for the evaluation. Or some of the laborers, they are actually on the go on the location on Google, and even on the Indeed platform. We are piloting first time in India, wherein it will identify your location, and then the moment you type jobs, and then automatically the nearby Sodexo job will come. And similarly, some personalized, we talked about personalization also. So the dashboards which are automated, sent by the system, are very much personalized, so that people are not focusing on work across the board, but they actually are able to identify the pockets where they need to work. Because we operate in almost 1100 cities, and if I start doing a program in all the cities, my energies are going to go away. But if I really focus on the areas where I need to focus on, then technology helped me with those kind of things. I'll give you one example. We use predictive churn analysis, so that our hiring prediction can happen for upcoming 3 years. 3 months, and then it takes the weather and many other elements also. And then our partner ecosystem who are training people on our roles, they actually get a 3 months advance. And similarly, the high potential, somebody spoke about high potential. So the tool actually identifies whether the projects which are given, the strategic projects which are given to the high potential, are they sizable in terms of revenue or customer impact or anything else. And one more thing, people who are interested in training areas, we have something called reskilling. In technical, we have to do continuous reskill. So we have a reskilling analytics, which actually gives the insight to the managers and the training team, that where are we need to really do the reskilling and everything. And some of the ease for the employees, like we have a geo-based travel portal, so the employee has to just start and stop on that app, and then you can actually send your claims and everything. So kind of usage. And sometimes we have a myth that that the people who are actually unskilled, or people who are uneducated, they cannot use technology. And we have 91% adoption rate of our tools, and most of the people are blue collar employees. And with the Yammer, Facebook at work, and those kind of things, we do have for certain set of category. But overall, there is a huge, and one of the person also mentioned that the adoption is not a challenge. So if we are really simplifying the technology, then the adoption is going to happen. So that's what I would like to end my comment for that.
I think what you said, geotagging, which talks about productivity at the end, if you look at it. In fact, our organization, we created a attrition predictor, which makes the recruiters very comfortable. The ops team come, they know which are the people going to, they are going to lose. I think productivity, one thing technology can really measure. But one interesting thing is, we are speaking of so much about automation. There's something called, how do we really protect the data here? And my data, it's in terms of, protecting them from the internal customer as well as competitors, that's very important. Richa, would you like to talk about how you guys are doing that so-called protection? Because it's one thing very sensitive, I feel.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a very, very important question, Nivedita, because a lot of times we put the responsibility on the managers and the employees to ensure the data is protected. But I think before we do that, it's I think the organization that has to take the first step to ensure that they have the right technology for data protection, and then ultimately educating and equipping the colleagues to be accountable for the same. And sometimes it may mean some additional investment, but I think it's worth it, rather than risking running the risk of data exposure for the organization, both for your internal employees as well as from the competitors. I think any tools or any platform that are being used by our colleagues or our employees for any purpose, whether it's for engagement, whether it's for the work that they're doing, Are they secure enough? Are the employees authorized to use those tools and technologies? Do they know what social media platforms they can use or they're authorized to use? Do they know the do's and don'ts
Okay.
while presenting the organization on those platforms? So these are just some of the questions I think we have to answer before we actually lay out the whole guidelines for the organization or for the for the employees per se. And at the same time, I think it's also important that we train all the managers and staff members on what data protection really means. It's very important that they know what uh, the different levels of data protection are, what data exposure means, what are the associated risks of data exposure, and what would be the repercussion for the organization and even for the employees for that matter in case there is any data exposure that happens. And this is particularly true nowadays when there is different rules that are coming up globally, for example GDPR or the data localization in India, and particularly for financial organization, where there is so much scrutiny by the RBI or by the federal bank in the US. So some of the organizations that are very heavily regulated, like the one that I come from, mandatory trainings that all employees have to complete, and the senior most leadership is held accountable to ensure the teams are completing those trainings, and they have to do a refresher pretty much every year without fail. And even I would say from an HR perspective, right? There's a lot of employee data that's available in the systems, which is very sensitive. There's a lot of candidate information that is very sensitive. Even from our perspective, I would say that every single person in HR does not need to have access to every employee data. Even for us or for HR professionals, the data access should be role dependent. So all of this has to be done and driven from the top, and then have expectations set for all the employees and for the rest of the organization.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. There are a lot of rules and regulations also in place because it is info security is one role I know all the IT companies have, but definitely everyone needs that. I think Kawal will be able to talk more and more into that, how data protection. But Kawal, I have a question for you. Being a marketing, we talk about technology which is used for, let's say, HR perspective, which we did in our organization during COVID. We used technology to not only improve the bottom line, but the top line. I'll tell you how we did it. In fact, when our clinics were closed, we have almost 100 clinics in India and almost 40 clinics in Middle East. All clinics were closed during March and April. One thing was with us, how do we really keep our people intact and pay them salary? That is all overhead costs were really. So we came out that can we really launch something for the products? We have almost 80 products, skincare products. We can really help the organization to earn the revenue through sales of product, online or offline, both. So we use technology and we saw it offline that point of time. And our guys just said, no, we will do it. So do you find that, a top line growth using technology, but from a HR point of view?
Right. So there is so much happening that we're getting so much as marketers. We are seeing so many insights or customer data points that it is very easy today to make informed decisions. For example, if I just take for an example, a target organization or a target role that I have in mind for my new products and services, I know at any given point of time, how is that client or contact interacting with my brand, with my products and services. Either through client calls, either through conferences, either through, have they downloaded a research report, for example? Have they seen my ad? How much time have they spent on my website? When was the last meeting held? What was the conversation about? What are the surrounding or complementing products that they already have? And hence, if they have product A and product B is a substitute or a complement, can I kind of pitch it to them? So there's so many insights that are already there today, and we are utilizing as marketers, that it becomes very, very easy to go when you go to the customer to, for your next meeting. If you have the right data, it becomes so much more easier to kind of interact with them, because you know the customer as an individual and not as an organization. So that really helps.
Technology actually has brought the positive change. Of course, that we need our HR department to be, to be up to date into the technology. It's still, the technological advancement, is required, but human touch, of course, is you need all of us in the organization. And I think it depends on our organization, what I hear from each one of you speaking, how we have used it, but the human touch is definitely important for all of us. Anyone else want to speak, or I'll open it, from for people to, if any questions are there, basically. Otherwise, anybody wants to, any panelist wants to speak. So human touch is important, guys. I think whatever.
Yeah, I can just I can just value at one small thing is that what I'm thinking that the more automation we are introducing in the whether HR ecosystem or various other functional ecosystem, I think the more and more kind of a download and handholding or responsibility should be passed on to the managers and everything, so that they become self-reliant and we actually move to the next level in terms of contributing truly to the organization in terms of its strategy and other things. And I'll give you one example. What we managed to do a little bit there. So we do have something called geo-based collaboration tool. So what happens that we have various sites are there, which are like a profit center, small sites are there. And I think Kawalpreet in JLLT would probably understand this. So what happens that these sites, they have their different challenges. Somebody has a challenge in terms of people, somewhere there's a training challenge, So what happens that it takes the geolocation and then it allows the site head to collaborate with the other nearby sites in a seamless manner on various topics, whether it is safety, recruitment, engagement, or anything else. And what happens that the learning happens between them only. So the complete dependency on HR can be reduced. Otherwise, what happens that every transactional thing comes to us, and then we become more about a transacting agent. So probably we can use technology to and then gradually shift that to the managers and empower them.
Definitely. I think this is important that if we come from, maybe it is a manufacturing organization, maybe it's a large organization where you have people across and around the world. Technology is definitely important, but with a human touch. Let's see if you have any questions from the audience. I don't see much questions.
You can start taking closing statements from everybody, Nivedita.
Yeah. So Ajay, what you would like to add here? If I, go to Ajay.
Sorry?
Yeah, Ajay would like to speak, a closing statement from your side.
So a little bit of different perspective on, the unhappiness part of, because I work for MNCs and then Indian companies. So my say is, are we truly invested in the growth of our employee beyond our own, corporate need to get most out of them?
Yes.
No amount of recognition, can mask any kind of incorrect intent. If we are able to map the true aspiration of our employees to the roles and responsibilities, then half the battle is won in terms of addressing unhappiness.
Perfect.
So that is the part, because you said 43%. So I thought this is a different perspective.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, Richa.
Thank you.
I think I'll say that I think engagement is a very critical topic and a very critical aspect for all of us in HR, especially given today that the workforce that we are managing is increasingly dominated by millennials, and the rules of the games are even more coupled, now with the virtual environment that we are working in. It just adds that extra level of challenge for all of us. So I think organizations need to embrace new tools and leverage technology more to empower the workforce with the right resources to be able to engage with one another. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, are we present where our employees' mindshare is? Mobile, for example, everybody's on mobile, right? Everybody is interested in gamification, right? Everybody needs instant collaboration tools. And these are just few examples that I'm citing. So are we providing these to our employees or our colleagues? And the shelf life also of tools and technologies is like FMCG, right? It's very so I think the strategy has to constantly evolve as the expectations from our employees and the workforce is evolving.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's
Thank you, Richa. I think Samir?
I think it's wonderful discussions on various points, and I would like to say that always we use or we hear the two statements from various leaders from across the globe saying ease of doing business and are we ahead of curve.
So true.
These are the two things I think it's important in human capital or human resource area as well, and for between business and people,
Yeah.
the connection, if we can create the enablement, I think that would be the key of doing the things.
So well said. Anil, any concluding remarks?
Yeah, I think after hearing all other two panelists, I believe that technology and the future way the things will change or already changing, that is known to every one of us. But from the business perspective and purely from the HR perspective, I believe creating a wow employee experience is very, very critical. Whether we use artificial intelligence or technology or whatever, the new gamification we bring in. So how we can create those touch points to create employee experience and they say, wow. Now, to make that happen, that means everything what Richa was talking about, the shelf life of every product policy or the services we provide. Maybe it is a time to revisit, rethink, and re-architect the business strategy. And the people strategy has to be very, very closely aligned to the business strategy.
Wonderful.
And from that context, developing capability of people to leverage that technology is very important.
Yeah, I think very.
I think what Mr. Ajay also talked about, he's coming from MSME. I am coming from the manufacturing, and that is a very large base in India. So how we can educate, handhold, guide, support, advise our people. And when I say people, then, we have to look at the total eco management. I call it total stakeholder management. That is the crux, and there the role of HR professional comes.
Absolutely.
So HR professional have to come out of the transactional routine job and align to the business and then redefine the business strategy.
I think wonderful. I think it's very well said. I must thank the entire whole lot of panelists here to give their views, and I'm sure the audience would have got it. Unfortunately, I didn't get any questions. I would have taken it through. Thanks a lot.